for when things go bump in the night. Rah! I'm sorry about that last minute decision. Not my brightest idea.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It has been an insane week for several reasons. One big reason, I can't talk about it just yet. But if everything goes according to the current plan, I'll be having a big personal life update in the next month or so. Please bear with me. Especially in the next few weeks, there may be some delayed videos. There might be a week where we finally miss our weekly deadline. Bear with me. Today's video is the next installment in our Trash or Bargain series. Essentially, we're spending our channel revenue on potential junk so you don't have to waste your own money. And to that end, if you have something that you're interested in, let us know down in the comment section, and we'll see if we can get a hold of an item to test in a future Trash or Bargain video. In this instance, we are going to be discussing flashlights, tactical flashlights bought on Amazon. I'm not sure why I grabbed this. This is my Streamlight. That is not a budget level or budget tier. For this video, I am taking 3 separate flashlights that were bought off of Amazon. 2 were suggested by one of our viewers. Thank you for that. The 2 that were suggested were this 600 lumen Ozark Armament flashlight and this 1200 lumen Fenyi flashlight. The third flashlight is one that I've actually had for several years. This is the 2000 lumen Windfire tactical flashlight. As far as prices are concerned, this Fenyi flashlight costs about $25. The Windfire costs around $35, so an extra $10. And then the Ozark Armament comes in on top at $51. And before I forget, as always, I have a parts list down in the description of this video. Now, the format of this video is going to be a little different, and it's going to be a little more structured than our typical Trash or Bargain videos because we do have multiple products. I've got chapters down in the description if you want to skip around. We're going to start out with basic functionality, how each of these flashlights works, the features of each flashlight. We're then going to test out the illumination ability, the capability of each of these flashlights outside, after which I will then do a rather scientific test of each of these flashlights to see just how much light is given off by each of these devices. I'm a little skeptical of the actual output of each of these flashlights versus how much they say. And lastly, I'll be doing a durability test by simply dropping them on the concrete. Because if you're going to be using a tactical light, you want to make sure that it's going to be able to hold up to some abuse. All right, let's go from cheapest to most expensive. Starting out, therefore, with the Fenyi coming in at about $25. I'll call it out that each of these flashlights comes with a rechargeable lithium battery. The Fenyi is operated with a push button at the back of the flashlight. That is the only way to turn this flashlight on or off. While out of the box it has a pocket clip, it does also come with an offset Picatinny mount. The standout feature of this flashlight is it has the ability to narrow or widen the beam of light, or if you want something that's more close distance as a spotlight. Next up is my own entry into this lineup, the Windfire. This, as I said, is allegedly a 2000 lumen light. It's a very basic design. It also came with an offset Picatinny mount, and it does come with 2 different ways of using the light. I have the push button like the Fenyi installed on the back. However, it does come with a pressure pad option, which I, for the life of me, have no idea where that is. I may have thrown that out because I had no intention of ever. But nevertheless, it does come with that and an offset mount. That brings us to the $50 600 lumen Ozark Armament tactical flashlight. As you can see, it comes with Picatinny rail, and unlike the other 2 flashlights, it has 2 light modes. You have the standard push to turn on, but then you also have a hold strobe light. That is terrible. On top of that, it comes with an optional pressure switch that can be swapped onto the back, which, while it does get rid of the strobe functionality of the flashlight, you can either press and hold to keep it on, or you have the toggle ability. Now at 600 lumens, this flashlight does seem like it may be the underdog as far as brightness compared to the 1200 lumen Fenyi and then the 2000 lumen Windfire. But I am rather skeptical of that. My Streamlight is 1000 lumens, and I don't think that any of these three can outperform that light. So that brings me to the second part of this video where we're gonna take this outside, and I hope I don't annoy my neighbors too much for too long. All right, we're gonna do a benchmark test with my TLR1 Streamlight. I'm gonna shine it up into the trees. All right, that is, my gosh. And this is where I piss off people. It's got pretty good penetrating light. Yeah, it's just snowed again. We got a blizzard in Iowa in March. It's been great. But that is the TLR1 at 1000 lumens. Next up is the 1200 lumen Fenyi flashlight. I've got the focus for the beams. I've got it set about medium, and 1200, it's nowhere near as powerful. Let's focus it. Okay, that's not even helping it penetrate more. That's just narrowing the beam. So that's, I mean, it's still a good light, don't get me wrong, but 1200 lumens, my TLR1 is far brighter than this and has much more penetrating light. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, now on to my Windfire flashlight. Honestly, I'm not noticing much difference whatsoever. You know what? It's got a little more penetrating light. It might not be as bright, but it is definitely, okay, it is definitely more bright, especially on the shed there. And it has definitely got more penetrating light. So this is definitely more powerful than the Fenyi, but it's still nowhere near as powerful as the 1000 lumen Streamlight. Last and hopefully not least is the Ozark Armament flashlight. Off the bat, it does seem pretty comparable in illumination, even though this is only allegedly 600 lumens. It definitely has the ability to illuminate at a distance, but it's not as powerful as that Windfire, let alone the TLR1. And this really does lead me to question the legitimacy of the 1200 lumens of that Fenyi flashlight. Okay, I'm done potentially freaking out the neighbors with all the different flashlights. Oh, this is awful looking. Gonna tune back in with the scientific side of testing illumination, and we'll get to the drop test tomorrow in the actual daylight. Be right back. This is my new light meter. It measures lux. Lux is different from lumens. Essentially what lux measures is how many lumens, how bright a light is at a given distance. Now ideally I would be able to use the recorded lux value of each of the lights. Unfortunately, the equation requires beam angle, and that information is not available. So this is not going to be a truly scientific test. However, using my Streamlight as a baseline being 1000 lumens, I'm going to see how bright the measurement this light meter reads at an equidistance for each of the lights, and we can compare the lux values knowing that this is 1000 lumens. These should be greater or higher, or basically equal to the Streamlight. I'll also say, with the exception of the Fenyi adjustable light, the Windfire and the Ozark Armament seem to have pretty similar beam pattern. All right, let's get this super scientific experiment going. I've got the light meter at about the height of each of the flashlights. Let's do the baseline of the Streamlight. All right, that is reading at just about 120 kilolux. Next up is the Fenyi, and I've actually narrowed the beam as much as possible just to see what happens at the narrowest beam, and then I'll expand it out to a more comparable beam angle. Interesting, that is coming in at 85.7 kilolux. That is significantly lower than the Streamlight, even at its narrowest beam. Let's go ahead and measure that at the more comparable beam angle. Oh my. That is considerably less. 22.9 kilolux. Next up is my own flashlight, the Windfire. Please do well. Okay. Are you gonna hold? Are you gonna take a solid reading? There you go. Okay. So it was coming in at just about 100. It did dip down there at the end when I was pushing hold. So we're gonna call that 99 to 100 kilolux. That is actually pretty good, but this is advertised as a 2000 lumen flashlight. Last up is the Ozark Armament flashlight. I expect this one to be significantly lower because it is advertised at 600 lumen. Okay, and okay, interesting. That came in at 82.2 kilolux. Coming in at the advertised 600 lumen, this is a little over half of the advertised lumen strength of the Streamlight. And honestly, that seems pretty accurate. This one may actually be the most accurate in its description and advertising to what it actually puts out for a light beam. So conclusions with the light meter test, with an honest grain of salt given it's not a totally truly controlled environment, I have a very difficult time believing that this Fenyi tactical flashlight is indeed putting out 1200 lumens. And to be completely fair, I'm also disappointed, but not really surprised in the performance of the Windfire. Coming in at 600 lumens and being a little more than half of what the Streamlight output was. This one, despite being advertised as the least bright, the least illuminating flashlight, wins points for being the most honest of the products, and it beat the Fenyi, which is supposed to be double the brightness of this Ozark Armament. With that out of the way, before I lose any more light, let's go drop them. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty arbitrary test. I'm gonna drop each of the three flashlights, not the Streamlight. I'm gonna drop them from about here, and we'll see what happens. I really don't want my Windfire to break, but whatever, I guess we'll find out what it's made of. First up is the Fenyi. Oof. Got chipped up, didn't break the glass, and still works. Let's give it one more go. Ooh. Okay, beat up a little bit, but still works. Okay. And for good measure, I'm going to drop it from the back end of it. Oh. Okay, still works. I'm going to try dropping it on its side. Okay, that worked just fine. Still works. Next up is my Windfire. Please don't break. Oh. Okay, still works. And it's just similar beat up on the front there. Let's go again. Okay. Similar. And dropping from the backside. Ooh, that got beat up a little bit. Still works. Awesome. Side drop. Cool. The Ozark Armament. Slid a bit. Ooh. That got beat up. Let's get in the frame. Oof, that got beat up a little bit. Let's see if that still turns on. Okay. Let's drop that one more time. Oh. A little more. Still works. And drop it from the backside. Still works. And side drop. More chipping, but still works. Glad I didn't just make 3 paper weights. Let's head back inside and finish this video out. Conclusion time. You know, this is going to be one of those it really just depends conclusions. They all work. They all are very illuminating. They do what they're supposed to do as far as a flashlight being able to light up a dark space. As far as using each of these in close quarters, they would work. The Fenyi in its more spotlight mode with the focus all the way out to have the widest beam angle. That was a really roundabout way to get there, but we got there. This would work in a very small close quarters situation, but you're still not going to get anywhere near the illumination as something like a streamlight. And you shouldn't expect that given this is a tiny fraction of the cost. But if you're looking for a flashlight for something for longer distances, a longer beam, none of these lights are honestly that great. Personally, I think long range is further than 25 yards, but maybe that's just me. For how much you're spending on these $25, $35, $50 as a use for a tactical light, they all work and they are all absolutely better than nothing, especially if you're on a very tight budget. But given what you can get for $100 even, $150, I think the Streamlight goes between $150 and $170. I would just try to save up the money. I know that's easier said than done, and it makes me maybe even sound like a snob, but if you're looking for a tactical flashlight, I wouldn't just go for the cheap ones. And if you're looking for just a utility flashlight, they make really cheap, very bright flashlights. I've got a couple blinding utility flashlights around the house for emergencies that are honestly brighter than these, but there's no real feasible way of using them as a tactical flashlight because they're lacking mounting systems. Let's declare a winner, medium, and a loser. I think it's fairly obvious by this point. The Fenyi is the trashiest. When it comes to the Ozark Armament flashlight, it definitely gets points. It has the features. It has a strobe feature that is terrible. It has the ability to put a pressure switch on it for either toggle or just instant on, instant off. It has the built-in Picatinny rail, and it is overall a decent flashlight. And I would consider this the winner if it weren't for the Windfire. The Windfire comes in between the two for price. $35. For that money, you get the same mounting ability of the offset Picatinny rail as the Fenyi, but you also get the functionality of having the pressure switch for using the device when it's mounted. On top of that, because it can be removed from the mount, I think that gives it a leg up on the Ozark Armament. Not to mention that while the lumens don't seem to be anywhere near the advertised 2000, it does put out more light than either of the other two. With all that, I feel that the Windfire does need to be declared the winner. Let me know what you think of these 3 flashlights. Let me know what you think of the budget tier tactical flashlights in general. It all goes back to the adage, you get what you pay for. And while I do believe, as far as consumerism is concerned, there is a leveling off, a diminished returns on the really high-end gear. When you go for the bottom of the barrel, the cheap tactical stuff, you're really cutting value. You're really losing the bang for your buck. Let me know what other products you'd like to see in this Trash or Bargain series. I can't make any guarantees, but you know, because of the cost of these items, it makes it pretty easy to get a hold of and do videos on. Let us know down in the comments, and I look forward to doing these videos for everyone in the future. That's going to do it for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing to the Phantom Llama's Den. Go check us out on X, Instagram, phantomllamasden.com. Go follow us on Twitch, where we do really weird things in games on the weekends. As always, don't take life too seriously, and make it a great day.